Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters to the Silver and Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to 2026, our 7th calendar year of releasing episodes of this blooming podcast.
Wow.
What's all that about?
I know, gosh willikers. Well, here we are.
Yes, here we are indeed. And let's see where we are at the end of the year and see how far we're getting. Hopefully we won't have as many portmanteau episodes for you to slog through this year. Maybe things will be a little bit more direct. But I say that, I know what's coming up in the next month, so there we go. Now, this week's episode, it's all about one of Peter's passion projects. I think Peter had the idea to do this one. I've still got a bit of the lurgy, as you can probably tell. So I'm going to hand over to Peter, who's going to tell us what we're covering this week, who we're talking about this week, and etc.
Exactly. Well, as you know, listeners, we're in 1976 in the timeline. And on the 13th of May 1976, Ragman issue 1 was published by writer Bob Kanigher, artist Bruno Redondo, and cover artist and editor Joe Kubert. Now, at this time, Joe Kubert was editing several titles at DC, including Our Army at War, Tarzan, and Blitzkrieg. He had just wrapped up his Tor series and was looking to create a new title to add to his line. So, according to an article in Back Issue magazine, number 15, he got in touch with Robert Kanigher, and there's a quote from the article where Joe says, "I called Bob in and we discussed the need for a new title. Initially we thought I would be doing the artwork, which I would have enjoyed." And that's literally the only quote in the whole article.
Wow, such insight. Amazing. Thanks for dropping by there, Joe.
Unfortunately, Kubert's schedule meant that he could only contribute covers for the first 4 issues of the series, although he did do all the artwork for the 5th issue, which sadly was also the final issue of the series. But who is this Ragman? Well, Rory Regan was a Vietnam vet. He'd grown up helping his father, who was a junk man who owned a pawn shop named Rags and Tatters. His father always dreamed of making a better life for Rory and constantly promised that someday he would make Rory rich. While drinking with his friends one night, his father discovered $2 million stuffed inside an old mattress that had been pawned just recently. He and his friends decided to hide the money for Rory, since they were too old to truly benefit from it. The money turned out to be the loot from an armoured car heist, and when the hoods came to the shop to get it, they shot down some electrical wires and used them to torture Rory's father and friends into revealing where the money was hidden.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, Rory arrived soon after, and seeing his father in agony, attempted to free him from the electrical wires. A final shock of power ran through the old men and grounded out at Rory, knocking him unconscious. When he came to, his father and friends were dead, and the hoods responsible were gone. Using a costume made out of old rags that his father had bought from a stranger before he died and left a note saying Rory could wear it to a costume party, he became Ragman, the tatterdemalion of justice. Rory appeared to have gained the physical abilities of the men who were electrocuted, since they were all touching as the final current of electricity flowed through them and into Rory. So therefore he gained an acrobat's agility, a strongman's strength, and a boxer's skills.
I thought you were going to say arthritic knees and a bad back, given that they were all old
You would
men.
think. He gained a sarcastic sense of humour. So, David, when did you first encounter the Ragman?
Do you know what, Pete? I'm not sure. I think it might just have been seeing a couple of issues of the comic in the back issue bins, either at City Centre Comics or at Comic Marts over the years.
Ah.
I haven't read very much of him. I know that he was in an issue of Brave and the Bold, which I've got, obviously.
Yep.
I know there was a 6-issue mini-series, I think, in either the late 80s or early 90s, because I got a signed copy of one of those for Logan for his 21st.
Sure.
Our pal Logan, an occasional contributor to the show, is a massive fan of Ragman. Hello, Logan, if you're listening. You know, if he was available, we probably could have got him to tell us a bit more about his experience. That might have been more interesting than mine. I genuinely don't have anything to say for once. I've got a vague feeling of buying a one-shot in the 2000s. I know he turned up in Shadow Pact for a while, but I didn't read Shadow Pact, so I don't really know very much about him at all. What about yourself?
Well, I remember buying Ragman issue 1, I think it was maybe at Arthur's Comics in DeCourcy's Arcade in Glasgow.
Sure.
And it looked like nothing else at the time when I bought it, because it was this stunning Joe Kubert cover. and it was a really interesting origin story. And I discovered that there only were a handful of pre-crisis appearances of this character, as you said. There's a Brave and Bold issue. He appeared in Batman Family 20. He had a couple of cameos in some titles during Crisis, but nothing really apart from his initial 5-issue series. No actual proper starring roles.
Right.
Post-Crisis, he was changed quite a bit. Pre-Crisis, he was of Irish descent, but post-Crisis, they gave him Jewish heritage and gave his costume a supernatural origin.
Right.
Tying it into Golem lore.
Oh, right.
And because he was one of the magical characters, he ended up in things like Shadow Pact, as you mentioned. He does turn up quite a bit in lots of the magical crossovers later on, but it is definitely very different from his initial appearances, where he's basically a guy with skills in a suit.
That's very interesting.
In fact, that Brave and Bold issue you mentioned was hilarious because he teams up with Batman and they both, for some reason, switch costumes.
Right.
So you get Batman dressed as Ragman and Ragman dressed as Batman.
Wow.
For reasons.
See, you're selling me on this. I'm now going to have to... I know I've got the Brave and Bold. I've got a feeling I might have issue 1 of the 70 series. Is it kind of yellowy, orangey sort of cover?
Yeah, it's kind of like what's red with like yellow kind of like highlights through it. So
that's what I mean. I might have to try and track a full set of that down then, just so I can... Because colour me intrigued.
Yeah, the artwork's very good in it. Right. So even though Kubert only does the final issue, the rest of that work's fantastic.
Interesting.
Of course, television viewers will probably know Ragman from his appearances in Arrow, because he did appear for quite a while in that, although I think they kind of got rid of him because I thought the costume probably took up half the effects budget, because it was like an animated sort of cape and costume and rags, which attacked people and absorbed their souls, I believe.
Right.
I only watched that once, and to be honest, it wasn't a good phase of the series.
I see.
But, listeners, you're wondering, why are we talking about Ragman and not actually covering this Ragman?
That's a very good point. I'm sure everyone is wondering that.
David, would it surprise you to know that I discovered there was a Golden Age Ragman?
Oh my goodness. That news is completely unexpected, and up until you said it, I had no idea at all what we were doing here today. Gosh.
There we are. Well, similar to my review during our first issue special Road to episode of the Golden Age Mr. Miracle, the Golden Age Ragman was also a character published by a company called Hollyoak, or Hollyoake, I'm never sure how you pronounce it. And from what little information I could find, it seems he was created by writer Bruce Elliott, who's credited as Warren Z. Gardner, and maybe artist Ray Wilner. There are loads of artists in this, but Ray Wilner certainly drew the first story he appeared in. And that was in Catman Comics issue 1, which came out on the 5th of March 1941. And that ran right through until issue 23, which came out on the 1st of January 1944. Now, other characters in Catman Comics included the Deacon, Dr. Diamond, the Black Widow, and of course Catman. Mm-hmm.
Now, can I interrupt you briefly for a second?
Yes.
DC have had a few different Catmen, haven't they?
Yes, there have been,
Right. Do you think it's possible we might do a Catman portmanteau episode at some point?
Oh, don't worry. That is on the cards.
That's all right.
That will be happening at some point.
Just checking.
Don't you worry, folks.
It's on the list. It's on the list, everyone.
But what is the origin of this Golden Age Ragman, I hear you say?
What is the origin of this Golden Age Ragman, Peter?
I thought I heard you say that. The millionaire author turned Daily Times reporter Jay Garson Jr. had a hit put out on him by the mob. He received a phone call saying his fiancée Joan, yes, it's another Jay and Joan, was in a car accident. She wasn't. The phone call was bait to lure Jay into an ambush, but the hitman shot a homeless man who bared a striking resemblance to Jay instead.
Oh no.
Jay had an idea. He swapped his clothes with the lookalike to fake his death, which was reported in the papers. Then, wearing the old torn suit that had been patched up several times, he took on the identity of the Ragman. Now, this Ragman had no powers, but he wore a bulletproof vest beneath his tattered clothes and used guns only when necessary. His sidekick was a tall black man, ironically called Tiny, who, he was a good character, but unfortunately his dialogue was very racially caricatured,
right.
I suppose, unfortunately, far too common in the Golden Age.
Sure.
Many artists drew Ragman over his 23-issue run in Catman Comics, which meant that his look changed often. His suit colour would change, sometimes there was no sign of any patches in the suits, and he even wore a mask on several occasions.
Right.
But the story we're going to do today is from Catman Comics issue 4, and that was published on the 1st of July, 1941.
Are you going to tell us about the cover?
I can tell you about the cover. Over 500,000 readers can't be wrong, it says at the top. Number 4, Catman Comics, America's most thrilling fast-action adventure stories. 10 cents, September cover date. Now, we have the titular Catman. He's having what we would call in Glasgow a bit of a rammy. He's punching lots of hoods, some of whom have guns. It seems that there's some kind of strike or protest going on because there are placards scattered about the ground.
Yeah.
It appears to be some sort of industrial complex because there's a vat or a tower smoking away in the background, and he's punching these hoods away from a damsel in distress who's standing behind him. The hood at the front's very funny. He's got kind of like a pencil-thin moustache. He's got worry lines that are like halfway up his forehead, which look like a second set of eyebrows. It's very amusing.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me a bit of the guy on the cover of Action Comics #1.
I think this is a complete trope in the Golden Age that they seem to have that sort of look.
Yeah, and the guy with the hat in the middle, he looks like vastly, incredibly overrated, successful actor Mark Rylance. Which is quite amusing. I would certainly like to thump Mark Rylance and knock him over by throwing someone else into him. I do not obviously condone violence, listeners, I'm jesting.
He's got his hand up as if he's hailing a taxi cab, which is quite amusing.
Yes, please drive me away from here. I'm being battered by Catman. He could be saying, gosh.
Yes, the guy behind him, I think, also doesn't like Mark Rylance because he's staring at him and he's like got his tongue out almost.
Yes, he's probably remembering that time Mark Rylance played Iago in Othello at Shakespeare's Globe and he was appalling. It was like if you got Paul Whitehouse to play Adolf Hitler.
I'd watch that.
So would I, to be honest, but, you know, as he sort of scampered and creeped about the stage, he had it was terrible. Anyway, shakes fist, Rylance.
Indeed. And there's a caption that says, "In this issue, 64 thrilled-packed pages of absorbing action stories starring the Catman, the phenomenal hero with 9 lives. New, original, different, that unusual crime fighter, the Deacon, and his little pal Mickey. A super feature. Ride the adventure trail with Hurricane Harrigan, a cowboy around the world. Also, the Ragman, Lance Rand, Devil Dogs, the Pied Piper, and many more."
I wonder if Hurricane Harrigan was any relation to Hop Harrigan.
I wonder if Roy Thomas was involved, he would be.
Legopolis. Roy's going to turn up an unpublished All-Star Squadron story where it's revealed. Anyway, before we start the story, listeners, just to let you know, this story is in the public domain. It'll probably be on Comic Book Plus, I would imagine.
And maybe even Digital Comic Museum. So, yes, check out those fantastic websites.
Absolutely. And read along with us.
And don't worry, because we're putting up the full story on our socials this week.
Yes, we're going to read the Ragman story, and it kicks off with a very impressive sort of 2/3 of the page to the left of the page splash image of Ragman wearing a sort of orangey brown suit, very smart striped tie. There are just a couple of patches visible on the trousers, just above the knee on his suit. There's a nice sort of array of patches floating in the air above him, as a caption reads,
"The Ragman. Believed to have been murdered by gangsters, the Ragman in reality is J. Garson Jr., author of the famous newspaper column, Crime Does Not Pay. With his faithful friend Tiny, the Ragman wars relentlessly on the vicious criminals who prey upon society."
J. Garson, I mean, it's not even that different from J. Garrick, honestly.
Yes.
Now, in this sort of opening montage, we see that Ragman is straddling a couple of tall buildings, but there's also a close-up of a detail from a classified ad section from a newspaper, and we're introduced to this by a caption which reads,
"A strange ad appears in each of the great metropolitan dailies."
Yes, and we can see that it says, "To the Ragman, come to Glasgow Castle in the Bluestone Mountains. I have a job for you that will pay $50,000. This is very urgent. Come at once, Sir Wilkins Sidney." And then we're into the story. Take a drink, listeners, because there is a full moon immediately. We see a red car speeding along a mountain road, and a caption reads,
"Along a narrow road in the Bluestone Mountains, a fast car speeds towards Glasgow Castle."
Yes, you want to spell Glasgow for our listeners?
It's Glascow.
And has that influenced your decision to read this story in any way?
That was one of 2 factors that made me choose this story. I'll tell you the other one later.
Amazing. So, at the top of page 2, we see that the red car has come to a halt. The driver has emerged. We can see that he's wearing a hat. There's another man walking towards him from the shadows of some trees. We can see the detail of a big house in the background. And the man walking through the trees says,
"Put up your hands and don't move."
And the other chap in the hat, who is our hero, the Ragman, of course, replies,
Hey, what's the meaning of this? I was asked to come here.
And we see the other chap, who's an older-looking man, moustache, very smartly dressed. He's holding a pistol at Ragman, and he says,
Oh, you're the Ragman. I'm sorry, but I must be very careful. Come inside, I'll tell you what I want.
And as they walk towards the building, the man continues.
I'm Sir Wilkins Sidney, the owner of this castle. There are strange things going on in here, and I'm willing to pay you $50,000 if you solve this mystery.
He lights a pipe in the next panel. Puffing away, he continues.
I know you'll think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but, well, this castle is haunted. I know because I have seen the ghost myself. For nearly 200 years, this castle was known to be haunted by the ghost of Duke Edgeroy, who was found murdered in the West Wing. I always thought it nonsense until a month ago. I saw the ghost walking down those steps into this room and then disappeared into thin air. You must help me. If this really is a ghost, I'm going to sell this place and get as far away from it as possible.
Gosh. A nice shift in perspective for the next panel as we look in through a high window and see Sir Wilkins and Ragman in a big, busy drawing room. Ragman says,
This is strange. Is there anyone else living here? Just my 2 servants, Charles and Louis. I have a son, but he's out west at a law school. Well, I'll see what I can do. I'll look around. Look?
But then we see that Sir Wilkins suddenly is very startled.
There it is! The ghost of Duke Edgeroy!
And we see in the next panel, from behind, a figure wearing a big green hat with a feather, big huge plume. He's also wearing a cape. He seems to be walking towards them. Ragman cries,
Huh? Holy smokes! It does look like a ghost! But I'm going to find out for sure.
Dashing across the room, the Ragman leaps at the apparition. But as he reaches the mysterious figure, it disappears.
There's a great shot of the back of Ragman's head with a giant question mark thought bubble, and we can see there's a patch, one small patch in the back of his jacket. We then see in the next panel there's quite a large patch at the front of his jacket. It maybe looks like one of the pockets has fallen off, actually. Anyway, Ragman stands with his hands on his hips and says,
If I'm not mistaken, I touched human flesh. I think this is some trick, Sir Sidney. Let's look for a secret passage.
Searching the walls for a hidden device, the Ragman accidentally pushes a small button, and, in a flash, he vanishes from the room.
Yes, because a trapdoor opens below him and he disappears.
And tumbles headlong down a narrow slide.
Yes, to appear in some kind of basement room. He starts getting to his feet, rubbing the back of his neck as he says,
Well, no wonder our ghost friend appears and disappears whenever he pleases. There's something big behind all of this, and I'm going to find out what it is.
Exploring the dark passages, the Ragman sees a small light burning far below.
And so do we, and we also see that Ragman is standing at the top of a flight of steps, like at the end of that episode of The Visitation.
As quiet as a cat, the crime fighter descends a long flight of stone steps. At the bottom he stops and stares in amazement.
Yes, it's a wide room. There's some interesting detail. There's a few sort of tables lying around. We can see some swords hanging on the wall. Have to see if they'll be significant. But piled up on these table surfaces, well, Ragman helpfully exclaims,
Good Lord! Money! Millions of dollars!
He takes a closer look.
Well, I'll be hanged. It's all counterfeit. Things are beginning to make sense now.
In the first panel of the next page, as he picks up a wad of notes to look at it a little more closely, a scary figure with a yellow skull-like face wearing a large green hat with a plume feather and enclosed in a purple cape appears behind him, points a pistol at Ragman and says, Very interesting, eh, Ragman? I've got to give you credit. You work pretty fast.
What?
Exclaims Ragman. He turns, sees the ghost figure and says,
Oh, so it's the ghost. Well, I always wanted to meet a real ghost, and especially one who prints counterfeit money.
Do you know what? Me too, I have to say. Ragman moves towards the ghost, who says, Stay back. Stand where you are, or I'll fire.
I figured you were a fake all along. Now I'm going to find out who you really are.
Says Ragman, rushing forward, and we get a good look at the patch in the back of his jacket here. I feel the need to emphasise all of these as we see them. There's a caption.
Before the ghost can fire, he is sent spinning across the room by a smashing blow from the Ragman.
Yes, a big punch there. The ghost goes flying, his hat comes off, he drops his gun, we see the patch on Ragman's trousers. Ragman stands over the ghost in the next panel saying,
Get on your feet, you small-time crook. This is only the beginning.
But what we see, and Ragman doesn't, is there are a couple of silhouetted figures running in behind him. And in the next panel, we see Ragman dodging a couple of bullets as he says,
Well, I see you have help in your counterfeit racket.
yes, because the ghost's goons have fired on him, obviously.
Grasping a heavy chair, the ragman hurls it at the gunman.
He does, and there's a brilliant panel, which you'll see in the socials, obviously, showing the impact of the chair, striking the Trigger twins by the looks of things. Didn't expect them to turn up.
Here you go.
As Ragman observes his success in taking out the two ginger goons, the ghost looms up behind him with a cudgel in his hand.
Too late to avoid the blow, the ragman drops to the floor, unconscious.
He does, and in the first panel of the next page, the ghost and a couple of his goons stand over the ragman's unconscious body, with the ghost saying, "Bring the dog. We'll give this mug something to really fight. You, Louis, gather up the money. We must change our plans." And there's a slow dissolve as a caption reads,
10 minutes later.
and we get a great close-up of the ghost. I mean, his face is horrendous. I hope it's a mask. I really do. And the ghost, we can see his nice, frilly, rough collar as he says, "Heh, there he is, Rover, and have a good time."
As the door slams shut, the huge cur snarls at the awakening ragman.
Yes, a quick reference to another Peter Davison story there. You're welcome, Kenny. Yes, we see basically a very brutish dog lunging towards Ragman, who's down on the ground in the wreckage of a chair for some reason. Dog lunging towards him, a caption reads,
Realizing he must act quickly, the crime fighter leaps to his feet.
and he goes for a pistol that's lying on the ground. That was very, very foolish of the bad guys not to take that with them, must be said. Ragman says,
If I could only get that gun!
and the caption reads,
But before the ragman can reach the weapon, the dog is upon him.
it is, and it's a savage brute. We see it going for him, and it roars.
Rolling over and over, the ragman at last sees an opening. Suddenly, pulling his feet up under the animal, and exerting all his strength, he hurls the beast clear across the room.
Yes, that's what we see. Amazing. Then another caption reads,
Before the dog can regain its senses, the ragman snatches up the gun.
yes, he does, and dog lovers, avert your ears for the next little moment or two.
And as the beast again leaps to the attack, the ragman fires.
Yes, well, maybe I won't put that panel on a tweet this week, listeners, eh? There's a loud bang sound effect as he shoots the dog, but it was a bad dog, so anyway, that mitigates the awfulness. Top of the next page, a caption reads,
Breaking the lock on the door, the ragman starts searching for the ghost.
yes, there's a nice circular inset panel showing Ragman running back up a flight of stairs to meet the ghost coming down the stairs. The ghost says, "Ah, I see you have escaped my pet dog, but let's see you escape my blade." And we see that he's bearing a cutlass or a sword or something. He lunges towards Ragman, who dodges out of the way, saying,
Ha! You missed!
now, listeners, it's not very clear, but Ragman suddenly has a sword in the next panel. So Peter and I have decided that they probably each grabbed a sword off of the wall that we mentioned earlier when we weren't looking. The ghost parries again, striking towards Ragman. He says, "You fool! I have had years of experience at fencing. I'll run you through."
Time will tell, my dear ghost.
And then a caption reads,
For a full 30 minutes, the clang of steel on steel rings loudly through the musty passages.
and Peter and I now get to pause for breath, as for maximum realism, Peter has prepared 30 minutes of sword fighting sound effects, which we will now play now, if you might want to skip through them if you like.
Clang, clang, clang.
Clang, clang, I'm just kidding.
Clang.
So there's a great shot of the ghost and Ragman sword fighting. A caption reads,
The ghost tries all his tricks, but the ragman parries his every thrust. Then slowly, the ghost is backed out of the room.
yes, we're back onto the tall staircase again. A very tall staircase indeed.
At last, he sees an opening, and the crime fighter plunges his sword through his opponent's shoulder.
Yes, we see Ragman reaching forward with his sword, the ghost stepping back.
Losing his balance, the ghost topples down the steep stairs.
He really does. He falls. He plummets. In the next panel, we see Ragman walking down to the bottom of the stairs. Sir Sidney coming in with the goons held at gunpoint in front of him, as Sir Sidney says,
Oh, there you are, Ragman. I caught my 2 servants here trying to get away with all of this money.
we see the mask has fallen off the ghost. We don't get too good a look at his face, but Ragman, closing things, says,
Here is your ghost, Sir Sidney. It's Marty Vance, the notorious racketeer.
"Of course it is. I knew it was going to be Marty Vance."
He was trying to scare you into selling this castle. It would have made the perfect hideout for his counterfeit racket.
There's a slow dissolve. A caption reads,
The following day,
and we see the headline of a newspaper called the Tribune, and the headline reads, Counterfeit ring smashed. 2 hospitals receive a donation of $50,000. Marty Vance, Chicago gangster, captured by Ragman. Hooray! And a caption reads,
another thrilling exploit of the Ragman in the next Catman comics.
Well, that was to the point.
Yes, hugely enjoyable. I like that a lot. That was fun.
Yes, very interesting. But we need a short one to start off, listeners, because we've got quite a few heavy edity ones coming up over the next few weeks.
And your voice still hasn't fully recovered.
Yeah, that was very interesting. As I often say, my interest is definitely peaked. I would love to read some more stories of this character.
Yes.
He's not particularly raggy, is he?
No, that's the thing. As I said, sometimes he's dressed completely in a normal
Yeah.
suit. Sometimes he literally looks like the Spirit or Midnight with like a domino mask on as well. But he didn't have a mask on in this one.
Yeah.
And the second reason I chose this story is the fact that Tiny doesn't feature, because as I said, he is very stereotypically
Yeah.
racially portrayed, which is something I didn't really want to do.
Of course not. Try and avoid those sort of things where we can.
Yeah, I thought this story was much more fun to do.
It's interesting. You can imagine if someone in editorial was paying attention, that maybe the more stories that run, the more patches would maybe appear on his jacket, you know?
Yeah, you would think, yeah.
Or maybe he would sew a different patch on as maybe a trophy for another case that he'd solved or something. It does kind of fire the imagination a little bit. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think if Roy was doing a revamp of this character, bear in mind it's a public domain character, so there's nothing stopping anyone from doing something with this character.
Yeah.
And yeah, if Roy or someone was wanting to do something, then he might actually adopt that idea. I quite like that idea a lot.
Maybe I'll get Steve to get someone to draw it for me and we'll put it in an Ink and Drink anthology. Listeners, in our preparation, Peter was very worried about me. He was very concerned that I'd be upset about the dog.
Yes.
Because obviously he knows that I love dogs, and he remembered that how upset I was when the dog died in that Captain Marvel Jr. story. But it's fine, I was okay. I coped.
It's a bad dog, evil dog.
Yes, it was a bad dog. The poor thing was probably starved, and maybe it was just wounded.
Could be.
The dog might not actually be dead. Maybe it just got a fright. That's my retcon.
Could be. That's fine. It became his sidekick, Ragdog. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Can you imagine?
Ragman and Ragdog. I'm imagining it right now.
Me too.
When we write our DC comic, we'll do the Golden Age Ragman featuring Ragdog.
Absolutely. And he can team up with Ace the Bat Hound and Crypto and with Dollman's dog, whose name I've forgotten.
And Thor, Manhunter's dog.
Of course. Yeah. And I was actually reminded that it won't be too long before we actually do dip back into the Manhunter mythos, listeners. So bear that in mind.
Very true. Cool.
Yeah, the ghost thing was interesting. I was a little disappointed that the ghost wasn't revealed to be Sir Sidney's son.
Yes.
That seemed to be getting set up as maybe a possible sort of reason for what's going on. Instead, it's Marty Vance, who isn't mentioned at any other point. So that was kind of may have been too predictable if it had been his son. I don't know, but I'm glad that Marty Vance has been dealt with.
I was having flashbacks to the Plastic Man story we did last year, where it was a counterfeiting operation that took place in another dimension.
Yes.
In the Golden Age, could you only counterfeit money in really bizarre locations like castles or other dimensions?
Yeah.
You couldn't just do it, at the back room of a pub or something. No, it has to be another dimension or a castle.
Yeah, or why not try and find somewhere where there isn't an elderly man living on his own? Just make it easy for yourself. Why go to all the hassle of dressing up as a ghost?
That brings me on to my next subject. Castles. Are there many in the States? Are there any in the States? Did Ragman jump across the pond and come to a place just outside Glasgow? And it doesn't really say. It does say Blue Ridge Mountains, which implies Virginia.
Yes.
But I don't know. It could be other castles. Listeners, American listeners, let us know.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm aware, outside of Disney, there aren't.
Yeah, that's the point. I'm sure there's urban myths about castles that people have bought and then dismantled and rebuilt overseas, etc. I don't know.
Yeah.
Peter is chomping at the bit for us to do DC Special 29 for similar reasons involving castles.
Oh, yes.
Everyone be on standby if you've voiced a character in the JSA, because we might we might do DC Special 29 full cast. Who can say?
Oh, yeah, I imagine so.
Now that I've said that, Peter's probably going to kick me.
No. It's probably going to be like a 3-part epic. We'll break it down to 1 episode per chapter.
That would work. So yeah, Brandon, Ross, Steve, stand by your beds.
Mm.
No, I quite enjoyed this story. Ragman's not a character I know terribly much about, but it adds a little bit of a layer to know that the name had been used already.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
Yes.
It would be interesting to read some more of the Golden Age stories and to read the 70s ones and sort of see if there's any kind of way of trying to link them together, you know. It's fascinating.
I wonder if Joe Kubert or Bob Kanigher had ever read any of the Catman comics or had maybe a lingering memory of a character called Ragman.
Sure.
And maybe that's what caused the creation or inspired the creation of the 70s one. Maybe subconsciously. I'm not saying that they took the idea wholesale. I think maybe they might have just had a lingering memory or thought, oh, actually, that sounds quite good. Ragman, let's go for it. Could be a complete coincidence.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
You mentioned the Golden Age Mr. Miracle earlier. It's kind of like that in a way. It's like there's a perfectly good name lying around that's been used in the past. You know, why not use it again? It's even, I suppose, by extension of that thought, it's not too far away from all the MF Enterprises stuff with Captain Marvel and Dr. Fate and all that. It's interesting. There's a good name is a good name, I think.
That's it. That is it, certainly, yes. Listeners, did you think it's a good name? Do you think it's a good legacy? Did you enjoy the first episode of 2026? Why don't you write to us and let us know? You can email us at theearth2podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on social media, because as we said, we'll be putting up this entire story as it is public domain at some point this week on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We're at the Earth2 Podcast, and on Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2, and it is the number 2 for all of our socials.
It certainly is. I'll see what I can do about scavenging together a few covers featuring the traditional DC version of Ragman just to kind of pad the socials out a bit this week. Well, leave that with me. As I always say at this point, if you're enjoying the show, please consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcasts and leaving us a positive review. You can also consider going to our coffee page and buying Peter the price of a beverage as he stocks up in preparation for editing the upcoming JLA, JSA, Shazam Squadron of Justice epic. I'm sure Peter would appreciate that, wouldn't you?
Most certainly. On that bombshell, I've been Peter.
And I've been David. Thank you for joining us once again. We'll see you very soon on
the Earth2 Podcast.
Transmatter Cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.